And good evening, and welcome to another episode of National Elections 2017, a special program that kicked off about almost a week ago, I'll put it that way. So it's pretty new, and we are basically, this program is all about the elections. And I would like to welcome, once again, we are broadcasting live. Pardon me before I make any more further introductions. We are broadcasting live from our studios here at Gordon's, at the Digicel headquarters in the nation's capital. I'd like to welcome my counterpart as well, back from Madang. Meredith, well, how was Madang? You obviously went across to celebrate freedom of the press, or World Press Freedom Day?
Yes, it was really good, Culligan. I got invited there by the Tvwan University journalism students. Every year they celebrate World Media Freedom Day, and it was really good speaking to the journalists there. They were happy that a working journalist went there and gave them some ideas. So I think a lot of institutions should invite more working journalists so they inspire the next generation.
And give them a realistic view of what actually happens in the newsroom.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. And obviously, what a timely factor it is, considering that we are into the elections, and now more than ever, obviously, the responsibility falls on the journalists. As our discussion we had with Alexander Reading, the president for the Media Council, earlier this week.
Yeah, very crucial times indeed. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to welcome first and foremost our first guest this evening. He is one of the intending candidates for the NCD Regional, and proposing under, well, his particular slogan, one family, one home. I'd like to welcome Stephen Kalaiga to the show this evening. Stephen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Meredith, for having me on board tonight.
Now, one family, one home. I think prior to the show, I had a chat with you. We talked about the fact that now what is considered affordable housing or affordable homes is somewhere under 200,000, 300,000 kina mark and so forth, going up. This is something that's not only being faced in Moresby, which is one of the seats you are contesting, the regional seat, but it's in other urban centres as well throughout Papua New Guinea. There has to be a reason why there is a shortage of affordable housing. And what have been some of the failures? I mean, I think what we've seen recently, even the Durand farm itself. Could you just elaborate on that?
Well, basically, since independence, we've had the National Housing Estate set up, a National Housing Commission. That basically was set up for public servants. Nothing was set up for the private sector or the informal sectors. So back in the 70s, I'll basically touch base on Moresby. Back in the 70s, we had an influx of people coming in, laborers, but there's nowhere to house them. Hence, Morata was the first settlement that was officially done by the state, giving roads, power, but there was no actual titles issued. The problem we have is there's no titles. There's no cohesion with Lands Department, Edirano, PNG Power. Hence, now we've got a major issue on our hand with lack of titles. So there was a report back in 1978 called the Morgan Report, basically telling the state you need to free up a lot of land and give a lot of land, subsidized land to citizens, which has not been done. Year after year, people going in, they all want to do make profit off, selling titles or land. And you've got a lot of people here in Moresby that don't have titles, who've been sitting on former housing estate homes, who have been asked to pay bribes to get the titles, which is totally unacceptable. And there's three types of land in Moresby: customary, state, and commercial land. We intend to utilize that land to go in there, proper subdivisions, proper roads access, Edirano, make it easier for citizens to get titles. For now, like a citizen like us going in to get titles, you're basically jumping through hoops.
So when you're talking about freeing up land itself, what exactly is the process of freeing up land? When you talk about the government, the suggestion by the Morgan Report for the government to free up land, what exactly is freeing up land?
Well, the state has 97% of land in PNG is customary owned, and only 3% is owned state. In Moresby, we've got a lot of certificate of occupancy land that's out there. Say for instance, 5 Mile, the big park area that was sold to a foreign company. Now we could utilize that to do project homes and have people live in there. That's where NCDC can come in. We can partnership with a overseas investor, get them to build these cheap, affordable homes, and get our citizens to start renting houses for only 300 or 400 yen a month. Those are the kind of things that we're trying to look at.
So you're talking about state-owned land.
State-owned land.
State-owned land that should be made available for public housing.
Public housing and or let the citizens buy the land. So that's the kind of land that we want to utilize when we get in. There's not only state land. There's customary land what we could do. We've already identified 2 ILG groups that we're going to be working with when we do win. Basically, do a proper deal where the Motu Kotabians can also benefit. Right now, they're not benefiting at all. They're not partners in anything any land development that's happening in Mosby.
Now, what's the issue with the Tvwan farm that I mentioned earlier at the beginning?
Well, billing board approval, that's another issue. And most of the titles that are given out, it's basically 80,000 per title. And what the National Housing Commission has done is given titles to developers to come in. Now, when you give it to developers, they've got to build their own infrastructure, septic, roads, sewage, and that's the added cost onto the billing cost that they have to build. And they put the houses on, and getting even billing board approval, you can't get billing board approval until you fix all the sewage facilities and all the necessary things to put a house. So it's a catch-22. You do this first, so that's why it hasn't been, as it says in the report, there's no cohesion. There's a lot of reports done by NRI advising the government what to do, but it's been ignored year after year after year. It's just listening to NRI and then following what the reports say. It's just basically freeing up a lot of land for citizens.
Now, with what you're proposing, you're talking about basically freeing up the land, making it accessible, and at the same time affordable. Affordable. What price range? When you talk about being affordable, what price range are you looking at realistically?
Well, we're looking at one bedroom apartments from 60,000 to 120,000. And there are companies out there who can build this. We've already got 3 companies who've submitted to Team Kilagi their plans. And it's just the reason why the houses are so expensive is when you start having people asking for cuts here and there. When everyone's hands in the cookie jar, that's when the end result we all pay for. The consumer, the citizens, we pay for the end result. Government has its own cuts. Comes to the private firms want to have profit also, so they basically put their margins. So at the end result, we're paying 400,000 to 500,000 kina for a house that's worth 30,000, 40,000 in the Asian market.
Realistically, can this be pulled off? Can this policy that you're proposing be pulled off? I'm talking about, you said there's no cohesion at the moment. I mean, you're looking at, if it means to be freeing up land on the outskirts of the city, obviously looking at Motu Kotabu and customary land, of course. Apart from that, you have to go through the NHE or NHL, whichever it is, the lands department, all of this. At the same time, the time frame you're trying to achieve all of this, what are you looking at realistically? Can this be attained?
Yes, realistically, well, we can't really house everyone in the city. Initially, the first stage, we want to get the project housing done. There's about 4 state land that's out there that we want to utilize when we get in. So that's the first stage, getting people out of the settlements. Then we look at freeing up the settlement area, do proper subdivisions, road access, septic, sewage, get proper subdivisions done and move people in. NCDC's physical planning board, which the governor controls. That's where we can really influence that and push it to the next level, which is the Lands Department, National Lands Board.
Stephen, when you first announced this, the Prime Minister was saying that he liked the idea. Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, basically he supported. He knows there's a need for there's a need for housing in Mosby itself, and I think he's mentioned that he would support the idea, inviting our team Claudia to go in. We're actually independent. We're running in as independent, so we're open for any parties to actually adopt our policy. We've actually got a big team of 8 people running our policy at this time. We're at the final draft stages of completing our policy, and we're open for any party to adopt this policy if they win.
So in other words, you're happy for any other candidate, whichever it is, whether it be Mosby or any other place, if they're willing to adopt this policy, you're free. You most probably will. I mean, you're happy to give it. Definitely,
I'm happy to give it and work with them too, because it's a policy, but you got to implement the policy, and we're willing to work with anyone who gets in. What we want is the policy to win. It's not really about us winning, because we all need homes. I mean, you need homes. We all need homes. We're either bunking with our parents or we're renting in a settlement. And we're basically refugees in our own country. So that's pretty sad, and we need to change that.
Stephen, I'd like to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's time for us to take a short break. Straight after the break, we'll continue our program with another guest as well. You're watching National Elections 2017.